Hello friends and welcome back to ReddX, your source for the freshest daily Reddit content. Today we are jumping into good old rSlash entitled parents, and we got some ridiculous ones today. Maybe even more ridiculous than usual. You'll have to let me know in the comments as we jump right into this first story. My dad makes him give us our underwear so he can figure out which one of us clogged the toilet. It's probably not as funny as the title would lead you to believe. It's kind of mental abuse for your kids. Anyways, I'm not sure if this belongs on this sub, but I'm still really shaken up by it, and I need to put this somewhere people will actually read it. My dad has had a few incidents in the past, including yelling at an Amtrak employee and insulting me and my sister, but this was by far his worst one. My dad discovered that the toilet was clogged in the morning. He asked me and my sister who did it, and neither of us did, so we said no. He told us that he knew it was one of us because there's blood on the toilet and no one else here gets periods. Please note that while I'm AFAB, neither my sister nor I were on our period. AFAB, assigned female at birth, for those who don't know. He at first just grounded us to our rooms, but the more we didn't say anything, the angrier and more entitled he got. He proceeded to force us to stand in the hallway outside of the restroom until one of us confessed, saying that he deserved answers. We were not allowed to leave, to use the other bathroom, or to get something to eat. We were not allowed to talk or sit down. He periodically went by and interrogated us, stepping into our personal space and trying to intimidate us. This went on for about 1 to 2 hours, maybe longer. At one point he was interrogating us, and I started crying and hyperventilating. He scoffed and said, "You wouldn't be crying if you were innocent." He then got up in my face and stared me down. I closed my eyes. He was so close I could feel his breath on my face. Eventually he scoffed again and went away. My sister and I whispered to each other, telling each other that we didn't do it. We debated just having one of us confess anyways, but decided that we would face him together, truthfully. Another 15 minutes goes by, and my dad comes back. He tells us that since neither of us would tell him who did it, we'd have to change out of our underwear and he'd inspect it for blood. And whoever was on their period was the one who clogged the toilet. I'm sorry, what? I initially refused, but I was scared to do anything except softly say no. He got even more pissed and said that if I didn't, he'd take it as an admission of guilt. I know you guys are probably expecting me to put up a fight, but at this point I was starving and just wanted it to be over with so we could go eat. So me and my sister complied. I wasn't wearing any underwear. It was a Sunday morning and I was in my pajamas, so he made me put on a pair of his pants so he could look at mine. He inspected and obviously found nothing, because neither of us were on our periods. He then decides that instead of him, God forbid, being wrong about something, we must be using tampons, and that's why there was no blood. What? I suggested that maybe someone had cut themselves shaving. He glared at me and said in an incredibly condescending voice, "Really? That's what you think happened?" Eventually my brother came home, and my dad gave up and let us go, citing some bullshit like, "You now have permission to go make food." I'm not sure if it was because he came to his senses or because he didn't want to punish us like that in front of other people, but I didn't really care. I was just glad nothing else happened. I could go hide under my covers in my bedroom and cry. I didn't end up eating breakfast that day, and he basically ignored us the rest of the time we were there. TLDR. Jesus, that dad is just a maniac. Like, I can understand giving kids a timeout, but forcing them to take their pants off and all this other weird shit. Like, the story started out funny, I laughed at the title, and then the story kept going, and getting creepier and creepier, and I just couldn't make it stop until it finally stopped. And thank God it finally did stop. Jesus. It is sexual abuse. There was no sexual contact made, but I mean, this is really out of line. And all this over clogging a toilet? Like, oh my God. Your house sounds like a nightmare, OP. I hope you're able to get out as fast as possible. Maybe with the help of Child Protective Services. I mean, I don't know if this is like a regular occurrence for you, but even once, it's really bad. And then there's like the whole thing of not wanting to do it in front of other people, which just adds kind of another layer to this layer cake of degeneracy. Whatever you want to call it. God, what a horrible situation to be in. I hope you're out of it soon, OP. This is dark. This is dark stuff. With all that said, best wishes to OP, and we're gonna move on into the next story. Entitled Grandma Thinks She's Entitled to Groping Her Grandson. This is kind of in the same vein. I don't have a good feeling about this. So I've always had a thing for not being touched by anybody. I never felt comfortable with my body, and my complexes about weight were at their peak when someone would grab any of my body parts. Now, while my parents understand it, and for the most part other people, my grandma never gave in to that request. She is extremely touchy. Really touchy. As in, I never thought groping anybody's butt was considered sexual assault touchy. It wasn't as bad when I was more pudgy. At least, I don't remember being touched as much during my childhood. But the moment I dropped a lot of weight, she exploded with touching and grabbing and such. I had to remind her every time she was near me that I didn't want to be touched. Although I understand that she might have a hearing problem, that doesn't explain completely ignoring my take on the matter. "You got so skinny," she said as she pinched my sides. "Look at that ass. So shapely. Whoa." Red flag. Giving me a great slap. My screams were never heard by her. Even parents started to get pissy at her due to her no-given nature. It didn't help that I share a house with her, due to me still studying and not having enough money to move out yet. It reached its peak yesterday when she decided to introduce me to my old buddy. We lost contact, and while I don't remember much from my childhood at all, it was nice seeing a kind face. That's when she decided to lift my shirt up. Just because. So she could brag next to my buddy how skinny I was. I decided I wanted none of that, and just blocked her arm reaching me. She didn't seem fazed by that. Pal ignored that completely, and she went on her merry way, leaving us to our business. She went nuclear the morning after he left. "How could you treat me like a bandit? I'm your grandma for fuck's sake," she screamed. No explaining got through her thick head. She got mad at me for behaving that way next to somebody. She called me a no funny guy and blamed me for having no friends. "Because you're such a closed book. No wonder no one likes you." I felt sad simply because even my body can't be my own. It had to be on display for her because she demanded it. My parents aren't back from work yet, so they haven't given me their mind on this business. I just needed somebody to vent to. I have mixed feelings. I don't know what there is to have mixed feelings about, honestly, OP. Sounds like Child Protective Services is gonna have a busy week. While I'll say this isn't necessarily as egregious as what happened in the first story, it's definitely not good. It raises some serious red flags. Then again, maybe I want to rethink that statement. Is it as bad as what happened in the first story? Think about for a moment if the genders were swapped, and you had a grandpa slapping his teenage daughter's ass. The menfolk would come and take him away today. So yeah, maybe it is worse. I'm not exactly sure. If everything's equals pequals, then I think that grandma should be getting in at least some amount of trouble. I mean, you can't just treat people like that. Nobody should have to tolerate this kind of nonsense, especially in their house, you know? Somewhere where they're supposed to feel safe at all times. Like, that's probably the worst part of these stories to me, is just there's nowhere else for them to go, really. Because they're children, and their parents aren't protecting them properly. So again, I'd suggest getting in touch with Child Protective Services. I don't want that to be like the be-all end-all, you know what I mean? There's some other ways you could go about it, like slapping her arthritic hand every time she reaches out to touch you. And if she gets defensive and goes, "Oh, you're treating me like a bandit," and you say, "Stop acting like one, I told you not to touch." She needs a wake-up call of some sort, you know? And it might be a better solution than getting CPS involved and taken away from your parents and stuff like this. Or grandma kicked out of the house, more likely. Just a messy situation all around. But eventually you will be able to get out of it, OP, and I hope that happens sooner than later. Good lord. Let's try and find a story that isn't so heavy with the child abuse, maybe. As we jump into the next one. Mom claims that I was starving her daughter at a homeless shelter because she didn't like the food. Okay, this seems a little more G-rated. Let's check it out. A few years ago, I used to work at a homeless shelter for single women and women with children. The length of their stay depended on many factors, and being able to stay, they had to work on getting housing and a job if they didn't have one. They could be kicked out for a few different things, such as taking drugs, harassing staff or others, not obeying the rules, etc. We served them breakfast and dinner, with them having to get lunch on their own as we were not a day shelter, and they needed to go out and look for housing and a job during the day. For a while I was overseeing about 30 women and children that were staying with us. Entitled Mother was with us for about a month. She had 2 teen daughters, one of which, Entitled Teen, E.T., was a really picky eater. I took them to the dining hall every night where our food was decent. Way better than school food, but not great. I personally have eaten the food quite a few times myself. Entitled Teen refused to eat anything that was served, so Entitled Mother was buying tons of cups of noodles and microwave food. They did not have access to a microwave, but I did in the back that staff used, and we were allowed to heat stuff up for the clients. After a while, it became too much for me to handle on top of my other duties, as now I had Entitled Mother's kids coming up to me multiple times a night to heat up food. Her other daughter would eat our food, but still wanted a cup of noodles alongside Entitled Teen. I talked to my boss about this, and she told me that I could put a ban on microwave for food they brought in, and that they were not even supposed to be bringing in more food than a day's worth, as there was no room. We had canned and microwavable food in the back in case someone came in late and missed dinner time, but I was not to give it out to anyone who was there for dinner and simply didn't like the food. Entitled Teen asked me a few times if I could give her some of that food, and would get mad and give me attitude when I told her that I couldn't. Soon after the ban, Entitled Mother started claiming that I was starving her daughter. I told her the rules and that her daughter had plenty of opportunities to eat. We serve 2 meals a day, plus I know Entitled Teen gets free meals at school. I have the authority to kick people out if need be, but I didn't have the heart to throw 2 teens out on the street. One night Entitled Mother got so fed up with me starving her daughter that she started screaming at me in front of everyone. Entitled Mother screaming, "You're starving my daughter! This is bullshit and we're leaving!" Entitled Teen tries to calm Entitled Mom down. Entitled Teen, "Mom, it's okay! You're embarrassing me! We can't leave! Where would we go?" Entitled Mother, "Go back to the room! We're packing and leaving!" They ended up staying the night, and since it was Friday I had the next 2 days off. We had to fill our shift reports at the end of every shift, and I wrote down what happened. When I showed up to work on Monday, they had been kicked out by my boss, who told me that I should have kicked them out for that. Entitled Mother had been having a horrible attitude towards other staff as well, and that should have been the last straw. By the way, we did not starve anyone, but if you chose not to eat the food we offered, then that's not our fault. Edit. To those asking if the daughter had sensory issues or autism, the mom would have told us if she knew. It is a possibility that maybe the daughter did and the mom didn't know though. We had a mom with an autistic 5-year-old son who stayed with us for a few weeks, and we worked with her to accommodate her son as best we could. One time he escaped the property and I had to help find him in our work van. He was safe and sound. To answer the microwave question, I asked my boss if we could get a microwave in the common area that our clients could use. That way I could keep to my duties and they could heat stuff up. She told me no. Probably due to a lack of funds to buy one, but I would have been willing to buy it with my own money. We did have hot water in the bathroom, and sometimes they filled up their cup of noodles that way. I was heating up stuff up to 10 times a night, and that was taking away from my duties, making sure everyone was safe, watching security cameras, handling emergency situations, answering phone calls, doing intake of new clients, etc. I was the only staff on duty during my shift a lot of the time. I wouldn't have minded so much if it was just once in a while, and if I had help. Also, I really liked these teens. They were sweet and gave me a Disney pin. As I mentioned, I love Disney stuff. I was mad my boss kicked him out, but being rude and screaming at staff is unacceptable. I don't blame the daughter at all, but her mom. I don't know, man. I'm that sort of tough love parent that's gonna be like, you don't want to eat? Alright. No problem, but you don't get to eat anything else. After a couple days, they'll be raring to go. They'll be first in line in that cafeteria, I'll tell you what. Or, you know, they die in a month, but that second option's much less likely. OP seems to be a fan of the kids. I mean, I'm not, honestly, but that's based on just one post that mostly focused on one of the kids being a jerk, so what do I know, really? The mom is truly the crazy one of this story, and I think we can all agree she's the villain. She's the villain for real. She gave up free food and shelter just because of her own entitlement. It makes absolutely no sense. I'm hopeful that these people will get it figured out on their own, but I know it's a lot harder without a shelter and all that stuff to get you back on your feet. Seems like we're just having like a string of sad stories. I assumed that this one would be funny because the title made me laugh, but I guess that's a bad way to go about things. I need to vet things more thoroughly, but really it's funner to jump in and get my first initial reaction. So I try not to do that. But if you guys think I should change it up, then let me know. But yeah, anyways, I might be the bad guy for saying it, but I think that your boss did make the right call. You stated the rules at the very beginning, and harassing staff was among those. And if being verbally berated in front of everybody else doesn't qualify her to be kicked out, then I don't know what does. So I feel bad for the kids, but yeah, the mom's out of her mind, so you can't help somebody like that. Karen's got a Karen. That's just how it be. Maybe she'll figure it out, hopefully, for the kids' sake. Maybe she won't, and then the kids will just have to figure it out on their own a little bit later. But anyways, we got one more story, and then I'm gonna get out of here. Entitled Aunt wants me to take in cousin, who will get out of prison, even though she refuses to take him in. Ooh, buddy. I got custody of my niece, 6, and my nephew, 7, a few months ago before the quarantine happened from the death of their parents before you start asking. And my family has mixed feelings on this, so I'm getting your opinions, but I'm sure I made up my mind. My cousin was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, what some people call psychopathy or sociopathy, when he was in prison for assault with a deadly weapon 5 years ago and had to pay a fine. His ASPD diagnoses make a lot of sense to me because when he was younger he enjoyed torturing animals and was basically the textbook serial killer in the making. When we were younger he put a camera in my bathroom that my twin brother found before I went in there. He tried to smother me, his little sister, and attempted to kill our family dog. My cousin's sister's mother, who we'll call Julia for this story, refused to take the fact that he attempted to kill us seriously, and I was too scared to file a police report after all this. I was relieved when I found out that he was sent to prison, then sad, unlike his mom, who was apparently sobbing at the court hearing. My cousin's set to be released in August of this year. His mother, Julia, and several other family members have been refusing to let him into their home because of his track history. His mother's been begging my twin brother and me to reconsider our stance. She apparently found me on social media after I cut her out of my life for different reasons not pertaining to my cousin. When making our decision, my twin brother and I took into account the fact that he slipped a camera into my bathroom, and the fact that he tried to kill me when we were children. The fact that my twin and I are now sharing a room, and my niece and nephew in the other. I'm sure this man will become a serial killer later in life because of the path he's taking. My mom, surviving brothers, Julia, and several other family members are on my twin and I's side. However severe, other family members are calling us cruel and to just let him stay on the couch until he can get his footing. However, for the safety of myself, my niece and nephew, and my twin brother, we are a firm no. Edit. Rip my inbox. Thank you for everything. I needed to vent. My brother and I have been looking through the comments. He's contacted the parole board to make sure that he isn't welcome anywhere near us. Entitled Aunt isn't aware of where we live, and the building we live in is safe because they've invested in a security guard and cameras all around. I'm planning on giving them a photo of him and saying, "This man is not allowed to come in here. He is dangerous." Thank you for everything. This assault was his first offense, which is why he got such a light sentence. He had no criminal record before this incident. As the legal guardian of 2 beautiful children, I cannot in good conscience let this bastard into the flat. Personality disorders run on that side of the family though, but nothing as severe as antisocial personality disorder. No, I didn't pick this story because I thought that it would be a fun one. So this is gonna be a very serious episode, but I'll let you have a little glimpse into my life for a minute. Something that you probably don't know about me is that I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. Something else you probably don't know about me is that one of my younger brothers is doing 40 to life in Pelican Bay for attempted murder. Regarding that, please save your tears and condolences. It really tore me up a decade ago, but he's been in a long time. We have as good of a relationship as we can have while he's on the inside. But once he does get out, if he does get out on good behavior, which he's not very well behaved, if you want me to be quite frank, he's going to be 58, damn near 60 years old. He's not going to know how to function in society, so it's going to be up to my wife and I to take care of him in a lot of ways. And I'm willing to step up and do that, largely because he is my brother, and also because we probably won't have any kids living with us at that point. He never tried to kill any animals that I knew of, but he peed the bed for far too long and enjoyed starting fires, which is 2 of the big 3 that makes a serial killer. But no matter how much of a little badass he is or was, I mean, he's always my brother, you know? He was my confidant, he was my sidekick. I'm gonna start getting even more feels in this episode. So I guess what I'm saying is not that you're wrong and I'm right, or I know the best course of action, especially because you have 2 little kids living there, but somebody in the family, probably one of the ones that is trying to force you into this situation, needs to step up and make sure that this guy gets on the right path. You can't write him off as a lost cause after his first offense. That's not fair to him, you know what I mean? Even if he does end up a serial killer, maybe he could be a good serial killer like Dexter or something like that. Oh god. Anyways, I'm gonna get out of here before I wax too poetic. This got me thinking about my brother. I'm gonna write him a letter. But I hope that you guys will like, comment, and or subscribe if you did enjoy the episode. Check out the links in the description to Twitter, Discord, Patreon, and my other channel, of course. We've got 2 new patrons, which is totally awesome. So a big Dayton Does family welcome / ReddX family welcome to Jess and Lal and Austin Lebetkin. And of course, we got all our OGs hanging out. We got Robert Waits, Nathan, Crimson Albedo, Lady Nix, Radimus Cisco, Damon Darkstar, and the OG Nico the Legend. I hope that you guys will join me tomorrow. We're gonna mix it up just a little bit, try out a new subreddit. I think Nice Girls is what I'm feeling, although we are due for some petty revenge as well. Who knows? I gotta go where the tide takes me. But anyways, I hope you'll join us for it no matter what. So please keep yourself safe out there, wear your masks, wash your hands, okay? Promise? You are loved, you are valued, you definitely deserve it, and I will see you in the next one. So until then, friends, bye-bye.